Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. This time we're getting into the world of bees.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, they're pretty amazing little creatures.
Yeah.
And we've got some fascinating sources to really uncover just how amazing they are.
Yeah, it's funny how much we just sort of take bees for granted.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, you think about like honeybees buzzing around flowers,
Right.
but it's so much more than that.
Well, that's what we're going to find out.
Yeah.
Let's start with the basics.
Okay.
How many bees are there in the world?
Oh, prepare to be amazed.
Okay.
Researchers estimate there are 20 quadrillion bees on Earth.
Wow.
20 quadrillion.
That is a lot of bees.
More bees than there are stars in the Milky Way galaxy.
That's crazy. How do they even begin to calculate that?
Well, it's complex, obviously, but
Yeah.
essentially they compare bee populations to ant populations.
Okay.
Ants are also incredibly abundant,
Oh, interesting.
and then they also consider the vast number of bee species out there.
Okay, so it's not just the honeybee.
Exactly. There are over 20,000 bee species,
Wow.
with honeybees being just one type.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a whole universe of different bees.
Exact.
That's amazing. And they have such a huge impact on the world, too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, did you know that bees are responsible for pollinating something like 90% of wild plants and 75% of our major crops?
It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah. I've always loved that analogy that a world without bees would be like a Big Mac with only the bun left.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because all the other ingredients rely on pollination.
Right, the cheese, lettuce, all that.
Exactly.
Wow, that's a good one.
It really highlights their importance, doesn't it?
It does.
So let's dive into the fascinating world of a bee colony.
Okay.
What is their social structure like?
Well, a bee colony is often compared to a well-organized factory,
Oh, interesting.
with each bee playing a specific role.
Oh.
It's a testament to teamwork and specialization.
Mm-hmm. So who are the key players in this bee factory?
Well, at the top we have the queen bee,
Of course.
the ruler of the hive.
Mm-hmm. And she's got a pretty dramatic rise to power,
She does.
doesn't she?
You know, when a new queen emerges,
Yeah.
she's got to eliminate her rivals to secure the throne.
Wow. So it's like a real-life Game of Thrones,
Exactly.
but with bees.
With bees, exactly.
And then there's the mating flight,
Yes.
where she mates with multiple drones high in the sky.
Yeah, it's a remarkable feat
Yeah.
of endurance and speed.
Yeah, and kind of a tragic end for the drones involved.
A little bit, yeah.
But it ensures genetic diversity, right?
It does.
So moving on from the queen's dramatic life,
Okay.
let's talk about the worker bees,
Yeah.
the unsung heroes.
Absolutely.
What is their life like?
Well, the life of a worker bee is all about dedication and selflessness.
Mm-hmm.
They have a fascinating career progression starting from humble beginnings as cleaners,
Oh, wow.
and then they move on to roles like nurses, builders, guards, and finally foragers.
So they work their way up the ladder.
Yeah, like climbing the corporate ladder.
Yeah, exactly.
Their entire life is devoted to the well-being of the colony.
Wow. So while the queen's laying eggs, the worker bees are keeping everything running.
That's right.
Okay, cool. So what about the drones?
Ah, the drones.
Yeah, they have a bit of a reputation
They do.
as being the lazy members of the hive.
Yeah, just lounging around, sipping honey.
Is that true?
Not quite.
Okay.
While they don't participate in nectar collection or honeycomb building, they actually have a pretty crucial role to play.
Okay, so what is it?
Their primary function is to mate with the queen.
Oh, okay.
They are the males of the hive,
Right.
and their sole purpose is to ensure the continuation of the colony's genetic lineage.
Gotcha. So they're the designated breeders.
Exactly.
But I thought the queen only mates once.
That's true, but she mates with multiple drones during that single flight.
Oh, okay.
And the sperm she collects from those drones lasts her entire lifetime.
So one-time effort, big consequences.
Exactly.
Okay, so why don't they help out with any of the chores then?
Well, they're simply not built for it.
They lack the anatomical features needed for tasks like pollen collection or honey production.
Okay.
Their bodies are designed for one thing,
Mating.
mating.
So they're not lazy, they're just specialized.
Exactly. They've been training their whole lives for that one big moment.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about their senses.
Yeah.
I've always been amazed by how they navigate and communicate.
Mm-hmm.
They seem to have a sixth sense.
Well, their sensory capabilities are remarkable.
Okay.
They have 5 eyes,
5 eyes.
2 compound eyes that give them a wide field of vision, and then 3 simple eyes that help them detect light intensity.
Wow.
And get this,
What?
they can see ultraviolet light.
No way. We can't see
Well,
that.
it's invisible to us.
Oh, that's so cool. So they see a totally different world than we do.
Exactly.
That's amazing. And what about their sense of smell?
exceptionally keen.
Oh, yeah.
They have these highly sensitive antennae,
Right?
and they can detect the scent of nectar from miles away.
Really?
That's crazy. So they're using their antenna for smell and for navigation.
Pretty much.
Okay, so how about communication?
When it comes to communication, bees have developed the waggle dance.
The waggle dance, yes.
Mhm.
Tell me everything.
Well, it's basically a coded language
Okay.
that they use to communicate the location of food sources to their hive mates.
So it's not just random buzzing, they're giving each other directions.
Exactly. Directions to the best nectar hotspots.
That's so cool. So how does it work?
It involves a series of figure-8 movements
Okay.
with a central waggle run
Mm-hmm.
where the bee shakes her abdomen,
Okay.
and the angle of that waggle run relative to the sun indicates the direction of the food source.
Oh, wow.
And then the duration of the waggle run corresponds to the distance.
So they've got their own little GPS system.
They do.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Okay, and they also use it to communicate other stuff too, right?
that's right.
Like water sources and new nesting sites.
Exactly.
What about swarming?
Swarming?
Yeah, what's that all about?
That's a carefully orchestrated process driven by a combination of factors.
Like what?
Overcrowding.
Like
It's a natural mechanism for colony reproduction.
So it's like they're moving to the suburbs.
Pretty much.
Okay.
When the hive becomes too congested,
Yeah.
the colony decides to split, and a portion of the bees,
Okay.
including the old queen,
Mhm.
leave to establish a new hive.
So how do they decide where to go?
Well, before the swarm takes flight, scout bees are sent out to explore potential nesting sites.
They're like little real estate agents.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They're looking for protection from the elements.
Yeah.
Adequate space access to resources.
Okay, so what happens when they come back with different options?
Well, this is where the hive mind comes in.
Oh, the hive mind?
The scout bees engage in this fascinating process of democratic decision-making.
How does that work?
They use the waggle dance again
Oh, wow.
to communicate the location and quality of their chosen site.
So their campaign?
Pretty much. And the more enthusiastic and convincing the dance, the more support a particular site gains.
So it's like a dance-off.
Kind of.
Yeah, to decide where they're going to live?
It's remarkable, isn't it?
It really is. So they eventually come to a consensus.
They do, and then the entire swarm takes flight.
Wow. That is incredible.
It raises some interesting questions about the nature of consciousness and collective intelligence.
Yeah, do they actually have a collective awareness?
It's a mystery.
Definitely a mystery. So they're resourceful and they make group decisions. But how do they survive winter?
Winter.
When it's cold and there are no flowers?
Well, they have a clever strategy.
Right.
They cluster together in a tight ball within the hive.
Oh, wow.
It's called a winter cluster.
a winter cluster. Okay.
And the bees in the center vibrate their flight muscles.
To generate heat.
Exactly.
Wow.
So they keep the core of the cluster warm.
It's like a little bee furnace.
It is.
And the outer bees act as insulation.
Exactly.
Wow. So what do they eat?
Well, they rely on the honey and pollen that they've stored throughout the spring and summer.
Oh, so all that hard work pays off.
It does.
Do all the bees survive, though?
Sadly, no.
Okay.
Winter can be tough.
Yeah.
Some bees, especially older ones, may not make it through.
Right. Especially if the colony is weak or resources are scarce.
That's right.
It's a reminder of how fragile life is.
It is, but for those that do survive, spring brings a renewed sense of purpose
Yeah.
and a chance to rebuild the colony.
Yeah, a new cycle begins.
Exactly.
So we've talked about their lives, their social structures, their amazing adaptations, but we need to talk about the threats they face
Yes, absolutely.
in our modern world.
These are serious challenges that are impacting their populations worldwide.
So it's not all waggle dances and honey?
Unfortunately not. It's not all sunshine and roses.
So what are the biggest threats?
Well, habitat loss is a major one.
Okay.
As urban areas expand and agricultural practices intensify, we're encroaching on those wild spaces that bees need.
Yeah. They're kind of shrinking their world.
Exactly. And then there's pesticide use.
Right. I've heard a lot about that.
Yeah, it's a huge problem.
How so?
Well, many of the chemicals used in agriculture are toxic to bees.
Oh, wow.
And even low-level exposure can be really harmful.
Really?
Yeah, it can affect their health, their behavior, and even the survival of the whole colony.
It seems kind of ironic
It is.
that we use these chemicals to protect our crops, but then they end up harming the very creatures that help us grow those crops.
Yeah, it's a tough situation.
What can we do?
Well, awareness is key.
Okay.
The more we understand the impact of our choices, the better.
But what can we do as individuals?
Well, one of the best things you can do is create bee-friendly habitats
Oh, okay.
in your own backyard or community.
So like ditch the perfectly manicured lawn?
Pretty much. Plant some native wildflowers
Okay.
that bloom throughout the season.
Provide them with a good food source.
Exactly. And you don't need a ton of space.
Okay, that's good to know.
Even a small patch can make a difference.
And what about the types of plants?
Yeah, definitely do some research.
Okay,
Find out what's native to your area and what attracts bees.
cool. So we're creating little bee oases.
Exactly.
And I imagine pesticides are a no-go.
As much as possible. Yeah.
Opt for natural alternatives.
Right.
Okay, so our gardening choices matter.
They do.
What about supporting local beekeepers?
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, local beekeepers are really on the front lines of bee conservation.
Okay.
They manage their hives, they monitor bee health, and they often advocate for policies that protect pollinators.
Wow, so they're doing a lot.
They are.
So buying local honey is a good way to support them.
Absolutely.
And what about just spreading awareness in general?
Yeah, that's huge.
Okay.
Talk to your friends and family.
Yeah.
Share information online.
Hmm.
Support organizations that are working to protect bees.
Create a buzz, so to speak.
Exactly.
I love it. Well, this has been really eye-opening. I'm definitely seeing bees in a whole new light.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, it's incredible how much we depend on these little creatures
I do.
and how much they're struggling.
It's true.
So as we wrap up,
Yeah.
what's the one message you want our listeners to remember?
Well, I hope they'll remember that bees are more than just honeymakers.
Yeah.
They're essential to our ecosystem,
Mm-hmm.
and their fate is intertwined with our own.
Right.
We have a responsibility to protect them,
I agree.
not just for their sake, but for the health of the planet.
Absolutely well said.
Thank you.
This deep dive has been amazing.
It has.
Thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of bees.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep buzzing. So, we've been talking about all the amazing things bees do, their lives, their social structures, but now we need to talk about what they're up against.
Yeah, the challenges they face.
Exactly, because it's not all waggle dances and honey.
It's not, unfortunately.
So what are some of the biggest threats to bees these days?
Well, one of the biggest is habitat loss. As urban areas expand and agriculture, gets more intense,
Yeah.
we're taking away a lot of the wild spaces that bees depend on.
Right, they need those spaces for food and for nesting.
Exactly. It's like we're shrinking their world.
And then on top of that, we've got pesticide use.
Yeah, that's a major problem.
I mean, I know it's a problem, but how exactly does it affect bees?
Well, a lot of the chemicals that are used in agriculture are actually toxic to bees.
Really, even the stuff we use on our gardens and stuff.
Yeah, and the thing is, even exposure to small amounts can really harm them.
Wow.
It can affect their health, their behavior, and even the survival of the entire colony.
It's kind of ironic, isn't it?
Yeah.
That we use these chemicals to protect our crops,
Right.
but then they end up harming the very creatures that help us grow those crops.
It's a complicated issue for sure.
It is. So what can we do about it?
Well, I think awareness is a really important first step.
Okay, so the more people know.
Exactly. The more we understand the impact of our choices,
But what about practical things? What can we do, like, in our everyday lives to help bees?
Well, one of the best things you can do is create bee-friendly habitats.
Okay, so in my yard.
Yeah, in your yard, in your community.
So basically ditch the perfect lawn.
Pretty much. Plant some wildflowers, things that will flower throughout the season.
To give them a food source?
Exactly. A consistent food source, and you don't need a ton of space.
Okay, that's good to know because not everyone has a ton of space.
Exactly. Even a small patch of wildflowers can make a difference.
So what about the types of plants? Does it matter what we plant?
It does. It really does.
Okay.
So you want to do a little research, find out what's native to your area,
Okay.
what kinds of plants naturally attract bees in your region.
So we're creating little bee oases.
Exactly.
That's great. And obviously pesticides are a no-no.
As much as possible, yeah.
Opt for natural alternatives.
Right.
So our gardening choices can actually make a difference.
They really can.
And what about supporting local beekeepers?
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Because local beekeepers are like the front line of bee conservation.
Oh, okay.
They're the ones who are managing the hives, monitoring the health of the bees,
Right.
and they're often advocating for, better policies to protect pollinators.
Wow. So they're doing a lot of important work.
They really are.
So buying local honey is a good way to support them.
It is. It really is.
And what about just spreading the word? Getting people talking about bees?
That's so important.
Yeah.
Talk to your friends and family. share information online, support organizations that are doing good work to protect bees.
Create a buzz.
Exactly.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive.
It has
I
been.
feel like I've learned so much about these amazing creatures.
Me too.
And how much we rely on them.
And how much they need our help.
Exactly. So I guess the big takeaway here is that bees are so much more than just honeymakers.
They are?
They're vital to the health of our planet.
They are.
And we all have a part to play in protecting them.
Absolutely we do. Well, this has been truly eye-opening.
It's been great talking about this.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of bees.
My pleasure.
Until next time, keep buzzing.